Welcome back to Programming with Purpose. Hi, I'm Gail Price, Program Leader Coordinator for K-State Research and Extension, representing Family and Consumer Sciences. In the previous session, Trudy talked about the logic model situation. You learned that the situation statement is the foundation to the logic model. Creating a succinct but thorough situation statement should answer the what, why, whom, and who of your program. Once the situation statement has been identified, the next step is to start with the end in mind and to consider outcomes. In this session, we will discuss outcomes as it relates to the logic model framework. Starting with the end in mind with outcomes is important. Outcomes are the direct results or benefits of a program. Results or changes may be in the way of knowledge, awareness, skills. You may change attitudes or opinions. It can be in practices and behaviors, or it can be long-term outcomes where you have social action taken, or conditions are changed, or environments are improved. Outcomes may be intended or unintended, and positive or negative. Outcomes fall along a continuum from short, medium, and long-term, or what may also be referred to as program impacts. Outcomes in the logic model framework is not about what we do or who we reach, but it addresses the accomplishments that we want our programs to achieve. It helps us answer the question why or the so what about our work. Outcomes provide a guidance for one to know that the issues and concerns that were identified when creating the situation statement are being addressed or resolved. Outcomes in the logic model framework are divided into short-term, medium-term, and long-term. Short-term outcomes are what we want learners to know because of our efforts. So what knowledge will be gained or learning that occurs? What awareness will be generated or attitudes changed because of what we do? Medium term are the things that we want our learners to be able to do because of the knowledge and skills that they have learned. So what behaviors will be changed or what practices will be adopted? Long term are what impacts do we want to see as a result of our program? So using the knowledge and the skills and the behaviors, how has that impacted the lives of our participants over time? Using what you have learned about outcomes, let's see if you can identify outcomes for each of the K-State Research and Extension Grand Challenges. Remember, those challenges are water, health, global food systems, community vitality, and developing tomorrow's leaders. Here are just a few that I've thought of to help you get started. For example, under global food systems, an outcome could be more families have access to healthy foods. Or another outcome could be productivity and profitability is enhanced without environmental consequences. Under health, an outcome might be more children achieve physical activity recommendations. And an outcome example for tomorrow's leaders could be youth increased knowledge about local community. These are just a few examples. Now I'd like for you to try to identify one or two outcomes for each of the grand challenges listed on the slide. Please select the pause button at the bottom of the recording to complete this activity. When you have completed the activity, please push play to continue. Let's take a deeper look at program outcomes. Short-term outcomes are focused on what participants will learn. Short-term outcomes are changes in knowledge, attitudes, skills, and aspirations. As an extension educator, you ask, did the audience gain knowledge? Did the audience learn a new skill, such as how to practice safe food handling or possibly plant identification? Short-term outcomes will answer, do learners have a more positive attitude or understanding toward a specific behavior change? The learner may state, I now see why it's important to be more physically active. Do the learners aspire to do something as a result of the program? A learner response might be, I am considering different ways to increase my daily physical activity. Medium-term outcomes are focused on action. Medium-term outcomes include changes in behavior. For example, based on what participants have learned, several have added 30 minutes of physical activity to their daily routine. Medium-term outcomes are the adoption of best management practices, or using new technologies to improve production, or to save time, or to manage finances. Some examples of medium-term outcomes are, so after an extension program, participants use the knowledge and skills learned to make better decisions on farming practices. Another example would be after attending a parenting workshop, parents will begin having a weekly meeting in their home. Ranchers adopt improved grazing practices on their ranch. All of those are examples of medium-term outcomes. In most logic models, there may be several short and medium-term outcomes to address the issues and concerns that were identified in the situation statement. Long-term outcomes are focused on conditions. Long-term outcomes include changes in social, economic, and environmental conditions. These outcomes will take weeks, months, or even years to accomplish. Some examples of long-term outcomes are participants in the diabetes program experienced better blood sugar control. The community benefited from the new walking path. Agricultural producers increased crop yields. Look at the outcomes you identified in the KS State Research and Extension Grand Challenges earlier in this session. Try and determine if the outcomes you identified are short, medium, or long-term. To help pull together all that we've learned about logic model outcomes, I want to example a program that was implemented at K-State Research and Extension in 2016. The Stay Strong, Stay Healthy Training for Older Adult program. At the time, the situation was identified that Kansas's population is aging, older adults are more likely to fall, as a person ages, muscle mass is lost, and we know that active older adults are more able to stay in their home longer and limit or avoid entering long-term care facilities. So starting with the end in mind, with the long-term outcome, we had 3 that we were working toward. Older adults would remain independent and in their homes for many years. Older adults would experience fewer falls. Healthcare and medical care costs would decrease because there would be a decreased number of falls in older Kansans. The short-term outcome was older adults learn about the importance of staying active to help maintain activities of daily living and to be safe at home. The medium-term outcome was older adults learn strength training exercises, which they adopted 2 to 3 times a week, that helped improve balance, strength, and flexibility. I also mentioned earlier in one of the slides that sometimes programs produce unintended outcomes. This program, after being implemented, had participants reporting that they had improved sleep as well as improved social connection. The program is designed for 8 weeks, 16 sessions, which brings small groups of people together. So people reporting that they had improved social connection with one another and new friendships developed. And we know that in this audience of older adults, oftentimes isolation issues are a real concern. So that was a real positive unintended outcome for our program. Some of the data that we collect is through pre, post, and follow-up participant survey. as well as we do pre-post fitness assessments to really be able to report the impacts that we're making towards our outcomes. So in conclusion, outcomes, remember, help answer the question, what difference did my program, event, or series of activities make? Though it's nice to have a successful meeting or program with lots of participants, if nothing is achieved because of your work, you must ask, was it worth the investment? What were the results? I really like the quote in this slide. Never mistake activity for achievement. I really think that that is what outcomes is all about, is we've got to have those outcomes to really be able to decide whether we really are achieving what we want to achieve. As an extension professional, you can be really busy doing lots of things, but you need to remember to ask yourself, is my work making a difference? This slide is a simplistic view of the logic model that we've been discussing. In the slide, the now would be the situation statement. What are the concerns, the situation as they currently are, and why is it an issue for my community or for the population that I'm working with? The wow would be the outcomes. That in an ideal world, if we can accomplish the wow, meet all of our outcomes, it would be the ideal. But as we know, just as in a bridge, you've got to get from the now in point A to the wow in point B. And to do that, you have to take some steps, and that is the how. And in the logic model, the how are the inputs and outputs. And you will be learning more about these components of the logic model from Robin Reed in the next session.